Hi, my name is Jeanette and I want to thank you for joining me on the channel Jane Reads. Today I'm going to be doing the mid-year freakout tag. I have seen this done on a few booktube channels. I was not officially tagged, but on a couple channels I was watching, they, instead of tagging a particular person, they said, if you want to do it, do it. So I've taken it from that, I'm going to do it. I thought it'd be fun to kind of reflect on what I've read the last 6 months. So far this year, I have read 49 books, and 15 of those 49 were rereads for me. I am a rereader, obviously. So I'm going to try to talk about kind of the new reads for me as much as I can, but the rereads are going to kind of sneak their way in because there's a reason I reread them. I must have enjoyed them at some point, or I had memories of enjoying them. So I'm going to start with question number 1 is the best book you've read so far this year. So starting with a new read to me, the best book I've read was Providence by Carla Lorando. This one is about Kendall inherits a town in Colorado, and she has to decide whether she's going to keep that town or that group of houses. She doesn't inherit the town, the houses in town. Keep the houses or going to sell them. And along her journey, she discovers a lot more than she ever expected to discover. I fell in love with the setting, the characters, and kind of the mission of this, the message of the story with God's love. So my favorite reread, I have a couple. One was definitely No Ocean Too Wide by Carrie Ternasky. I'll probably mention this book a couple times because this holds a special place in my heart for a few reasons. But it is historical fiction, and it is following a sister trying to find her siblings who have been checked in, have been left with a British orphanage and end up getting sent, wow, I can't talk, getting sent to Canada, and then she is trying to find them. And it really tugged at my heartstrings. And to learn that this is based on true events that actually happened, I didn't know much about the British orphanages back in the 1900s. Yeah, late 1800s, early 1900s. So it was really interesting to me, and I really enjoyed reading it. The other favorites that I've read is 5 Days in Sky by Carla Lorando. And this one takes place in Scotland, and the characters I just was so connected with the characters. It was my third time reading it. I just love this story, and it just gives me such warm and happy feelings, and I feel like I'm in Scotland with them. Then The Wedding Chapel by Rachel Hawke is another favorite. And so these last two books I both read in June, so I've just talked about them in my June wrap-up. Was The Wedding Chapel in June? Yes, I'm pretty sure The Wedding Chapel was in June. And so The Wedding Chapel is a dual timeline story and following two separate couples and kind of their journey. And I loved both storylines. I'm not going to really talk about it because, again, it's in my June wrap-up. So question number 2 is the best sequel you've read so far this year. My favorite sequel, let's start. I have read 15 sequels this year. I love to read series, and I love to read series back to back. So my favorite book number 2, now I know a sequel doesn't have to be book number 2, it could be book 3, book 4, but this one is book number 2. It was Acceptable Risk by Lynette Eason. It is part of her Danger Never Sleeps series, and it talks about tampered medications, and kind of, I just was really drawn into the characters and following them. And the one sister is very convinced that her brother did not kill himself. But all the evidence is pointing to, yes, he did. And I couldn't put the book down. I loved this story. And I kind of knew, I was expecting to enjoy this story because it was a Lynette Eason book. But it totally lived up to my expectations. So, question number 3 is a new release you haven't yet read but want to. Now, I have 11 books on my list which were released in the first half of this year, 2022, that I haven't read. But the only one I own that I haven't read is Say It's for Good by TERESA TYSINGER. This one is on my July TBR, so I talked about it in my July TBR video. So that one is like the next one I'm going to read. Well, not really the next book I'm going to read, but because it's book 4 of a series, so I'm going to read 1, 2, 3, and then 4. But it's kind of the next new release that I'm going to read. So that leaves 10 other new releases that have come out this year that are on my list to read. So I have a lot to read. Question number 4 is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So at this point in time, I have 8 books that are currently on my list that I am looking forward to releasing so that I can read. However, the one that I kind of am looking forward to the most is the book Sundown by Susan May Warren. This is book 3 of a series. I can't think of what that series is called. I don't know if I have it written down in this. No, I don't have the name of the series. But there is book 1 of this series is Sunrise, and book 2 is Sunburst, which came out, book 1 came out in January, book 2 came out in June, and book 3 comes out in November. I have really enjoyed Susan May Warren's suspense books, and so I can't wait to read this series. But again, I plan on waiting for book 3 to be released before I read book 1, so that I can read 1, 2, and 3 back to back. Because again, that's how I enjoy reading. I don't know how many times I said that, but I probably will repeat that a lot. Maybe not in this video, but in future videos, you'll get to know that I am a series reader in order. So that is the one that I am like really looking forward to reading so that I can get 2 others off my list as well and get them all. So question number 5 was your biggest disappointment so far this year. So I kind of have 2 books, really 3 books because 2 are part of a series, but I was really looking forward to reading the Cornhusker Dreams series by Cara Putman. So this was Canteen Dreams, Sandhill Dreams. I can't even think of what the name of the book number 3 is. But I read book 1 and 2 in June, so again, they'll be in my June wrap-up. And I did not enjoy these books. So because I didn't own book 3, I decided I'm not going to buy it to read it. So I'm done with this series. And so I've really enjoyed Cara Putman's stories, like other books I've read, but I think those ones have been more current day, like contemporary settings, rather than historical, and maybe that's just what didn't do it for me. So yeah. Then my other kind of disappointment was, is really surprising, was Hostile Intent by Lynette Eason, which was book number 4 of her Danger Never Sleeps series. This book was Caden's story. Now, we met Caden in book number 1. He is the brother to one of the characters in book 1. And I fell in love with his character in book 1. And I could not wait to read his story. And I really enjoyed that he carried over in books 1, 2, 3, and then finally he was the main character in book 4. I was really, really looking forward to book 4 because I've really fallen for him in the 1, 2, 3. But I was disappointed in book 4. I didn't really like the way the story went, and it was a letdown after really enjoying books 1, 2, and 3. So that's, yeah. So then, question number 6 is your biggest surprise so far this year. So I kind of have two for two different reasons. I didn't grab it. So this one was one. It's No Journey Too Far, which is the sequel to No Ocean Too Wide. Basically, why I'm saying this was a surprise, I opened the first, to the first chapter, and it was like, what? So it just, I don't want to say kind of how it starts because I don't want to ruin it for people. But I was just like, okay then. It just didn't start the way I was expecting after the way this one ended. So that's why I'm saying it was a surprise. Then the other surprise was Safe in His Arms by Melanie D. Sniger. Now, I had received this one free on my Kindle, and because it was a free book, I didn't have high expectations for it. Now, I mean, just because it's free doesn't mean it's not any good, right? I don't know why. I just did not really expect to enjoy it. I had read one other book by her, and it was okay. I think I gave that one 3 stars maybe, but I loved this book. I really enjoyed following the characters, and they felt very real. And it was one that, I need to know what happens next to the other set of characters that's in it. I do have book number 2, I just haven't read it yet because I didn't own it when I finished this one. But I have recently got it, so I will be reading that one soon so that I can find out what happens to those other 2 characters and hopefully catch up with these 2 characters. So, yeah. So those were the 2 surprises for me. Question number 7 is my favorite new author, either a debut or just new to me. So, I had to look at my list to see what I've read because I don't feel like I've read a lot of new authors. I mean, when I looked at my list, I read more than I kind of thought I had. So I have read 7 new authors, new to me authors this year. However, 2 of those were memoirs, so I'm not really counting those because they're not ones that I'm going to read something else by because, right, they're a memoir. So, and then a couple of the other ones they're not ones I'm going to pick up more books by. I just didn't really enjoy them. So the one that does stand out to me that I would try more from, her name is Jessica Scarlett, and I read 2 books by her. Surprise, surprise, it was books 1 and book 2 of a series. That was A Lily in Disguise and A Lord of Many Masks. This was a historical fiction set in England. Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. I didn't write down where it was set. But when I got this one through Kindle Unlimited, is where I discovered her from. She only has 3 books out, and I haven't read book number 3 yet because at the time my Kindle Unlimited subscription had expired, and because I own so many books, I have not renewed it yet. So I will at some point, and then book number 3 will get done. So basically, just from book number 1, which is A Lily in Disguise, I felt like I was stepping into a Jane Austen story. The banter between Lily and Peter made me think of Miss Bennet, and Mr. Darcy. Just the way they interacted. There were times that I did struggle to keep straight of who everyone was, but I still enjoyed it, and I didn't want to stop reading. I really became attached to the Wycliffe family, which is what this series is called. It centers around 3 siblings. And I wanted to know what was going to happen. So then book 2 follows another sister, Eliza. And I felt so much for Eliza. She goes through so much heartbreak and disappointment, and just the way she was treated by some people just really irked me and made me feel for her. the main guy in the story, I really had mixed emotions about him. There was times I liked him, and there was times that, oh, I just wanted to wring his neck. But I really enjoyed the way the story ended, and as I said, I will pick up book 3 at some point. So that is an author that I will be looking out for. So question number 8 is newest fictional crush. So I don't know if I really crush on characters, but I mean, I have characters that I like. So basically, I'm going to talk about the male characters that I like for this question. So I'm going to go back to kind of what my favorite books of the year. So my favorite male characters are from those books. Surprise, surprise. So Gabe from Providence, James from 5 Days in Sky, and Coach Jimmy from The Wedding Chapel. Each one just captured my heart in different ways and just made me want things to work out for them. They're things that I look for, and they remind me of my husband's actions at times, and I just really enjoyed them as male characters. So question number 9 is your newest favorite character. I'm going to answer kind of my favorite female characters because I just answered male characters under the crush. So really looking back at the books and kind of thinking through which characters I've really enjoyed, I only have a couple. So Natalie from Reconstructing Natalie, I loved her outlook on life and just the way she handled what she was going through, just so much respect. Then I'll have to say Kendall from Providence. Just so much was thrown at her, but she was open to kind of hearing and listening and accepting and forgiving, and I really enjoyed her. So looking back at my list though, I do realize, or I have realized, that I really enjoy male characters much more than female characters. I am so much more drawn to them and want to know. Like, as I said, in Lynette Easton's Danger Never Sleeps series, I was so drawn to Caden from book number 1 and really enjoyed following him from book 1, 2, and 3, and then 4. There was no other character in that series, even though like majority of the characters were in all 4 books that were introduced in book 1, that I really cared about reading and was waiting to appear. So I really enjoy male characters. So question number 10 is a book that made you cry. So I don't really cry while reading books, but I kind of did get close to tears or just kind of feeling a sadness when I read My Stubborn Heart by Becky Wade. Again, this was a reread for me. I talked about this I think I read this one in June as well. So it's in my June wrap up. And there's a point where a decision is made and the characters go kind of their separate ways. And I hurt for both of them and was so sad. And I'm just like, so that moment put me on tears. When I read this book originally, No Ocean Too Wide, this one really, I was very close to crying, to actually like shedding tears because of things that happen. And I hurt for the family. So question number 11 is the most beautiful book that you've bought or received this year. So there is no doubt about it. It is this book. So I received this one from my best friend. I came home from work one day and I had an Amazon package and I'm like, I didn't order anything. At least I don't think I did. And I opened it up And I was so excited about this book. She knew that I had it, like I read it on Kindle. And so she bought me the physical copy because she knew I wanted to reread it. And kind of in addition to her thoughtfulness of giving it to me, the fact that she is allowing me to reread a book because she is not a fan of rereading, doesn't see the point in it. So the fact that she has like encouraged me in rereading a book by buying me a book that she knows I've already read just really touched my heart. And I was so excited to receive this that I was trying to explain to my husband the excitement, but something had happened to him that day and he was trying to explain, and it was such a funny moment between us because we were just talking on top of each other because we were both so happy. And yeah, so it's kind of, this will always stick in my memory. And because and that, I've also left the little gift note inside it because I want to remember who it came from, and not, I'm sure I will, but just in case I don't. So yeah, so this one is definitely the best book I've received this year. So then question number 12 is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So basically kind of on my goals, I had created this TBR bingo board. Don't know how well you can see that. So these are the books that I'm trying, there's 24 books that I'm trying to read by the end of this year. I am doing really well on this. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 books left to read. I have 8 that are not colored in yet, but that 8th book, I have about 50 pages left in it, so I will finish it either today or tomorrow. So those books are Where There's Smoke by Susan May Warren, Nichols by Karen Banney, Capital Gains by Chip Gaines, Things I Never Told You by Beth Voigt, Kept by Sally Bradley, Daring Chloe by Laura Jensen Walker, and Nothing But Trouble by Susan May Warren. So that's pretty good. Out of 24 books, what did I say? I have 8 left to read? Well, really 7 left to read? That's amazing. So kind of carrying on the goals. So kind of my goal check-in part. My goal was to read 75 books this year. So far, I have read 49 books. I'm very close to finishing my 50th book. So I will meet the goal. I have no doubt about that. And then question number 2, or goal number 2, was to complete my TBR bingo board, which was 24 books. As I said, I only have 7 left to read. Then my goal number 3 was to read every day. So I created this chart that I would color in to read every day. And so far I've only missed 1 day. And that was just a couple weeks ago. And basically I know I did not read that day because I was extremely sick one day. And all I did was sleep. And just sleep and try to eat and kind of, yeah. So I could not look at anything. So kind of when I go back and look over this, I'm going to know which day I was really sick. Not really great memory, but so, I mean, I'm doing fairly well on reading every day. Then my goal number 4 was to complete the Read Your Bookshelf Challenge, which is the challenge through Chantel. So I've got the printout in my book. And basically, I'm doing really well. I'm actually a little bit ahead. So I really only have September, October, November, December prompts to fill. So I have no doubt that I will complete those ones. So basically, that is my goal check-in. That is my mid-year freakout tag. And so to end this, I'm going to take Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails. I don't think she's done this tag. If she has, well, then you've already seen it. The other people that I regularly watch, majority of them have already done this tag. So I'd be very interested to see. Let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite book so far this year? I would love to read them and maybe add more books to my list. Thank you very much for joining me. Have a good day. Bye.